Okay, class. So while we're talking about brushes, my question was, which brush would you use if you wanted to create a long, thin, straight line? And a lot of times people turn towards the absolute smallest, teeniest, tiniest round brush they have, the pointy brush, and they call it a liner brush but really a liner brush looks more like this, where it's really long and it has this long bristles, but they're thin and small. And yes, this can create lines, but if you're trying to create a straight, thin line, this is not what we want to go with. And we definitely don't want to go with this one, and they definitely make smaller brushes than this one even. But the problem with this brush is if I'm going to load it up, it doesn't hold a lot of paint. It holds just a tiny amount of paint, and it's going to run out very quickly. And so if I start to create a thin line, it's typically a little bit shakier, and it's not as straight as if I was using an angle brush or a dagger brush, and it definitely can't hold as much paint. What these are great for, and especially your liner brushes that have the long bristles, is for things that have a curved line or a wavy line that look like this, where it goes up and down, or if you're writing your name, and you can see it's hard to load up a brush like this with a lot of paint. But if I was signing a paper, it's easier to use a liner than most other things. What's one of the most versatile brushes that can create a nice line is called the dagger. You can see how it comes to this really nice fine point. The dagger brush is great, except for they're normally pretty weak. If you have a thicker paint that is a little bit heavier, this won't be able to push it around very easily. So the way I'm loading my brush here is I'm loading it off to the side. Let me show you what I'm doing so that you can see. And I just dipped my palette knife in the paint. So I'm gonna wipe that off. I am loading my dagger brush over here, and you can see that it's a little bit lighter. And then if I take it over here, I can pull that dagger brush straight across, and I can create thin lines with the dagger brush. And that is good at that. What's great about the dagger brush too is you can get these wavy lines that go from thick to thin. And so that's your dagger brush. And although I really like a dagger brush, I never really find myself using it very much because it's not as versatile as the angle brush. The angle brush can do a couple things that the dagger brush can't do. So the dagger brush doesn't pull a flat line, which is great if you're wanting to create a flower or a leaf or something of that sort. Oh, this still has a brush soak in it. But once I get that out, I'm gonna load this angle brush. What's great about the angle brush is it can pull a flat line like this, a flat section. You can paint an entire section with this. You can turn it on its side and come back and create a rectangle, which the dagger struggles to do. You could do it, but it's gonna be a lot harder. So I really like the angle brush because what the angle brush is great at is I can pull a straight line using the angle brush that is nice and thin. And the way I'm doing that is I'm laying down my pinky and I'm getting it flat with the paper, and then I'm pulling it straight across just like this. This does take some practice and to get to do so that you don't have a thick line that looks like this by pressing it too hard. If you press it too hard, it does give you that thick line, but if you turn it up on its tip and you're just using the tip of it, you can create even thinner lines that are hair thin. And then if you turn it upside down, you can even create these little dashes of thin lines that look like this. And that is a skill that I have practiced quite a few times. And it's, once again, if you press too hard, they look like this. But you can create nice thin lines with your angle brush. And what I found is a lot of times I'll only use my angle brush in an entire painting. I can get the thinnest thins, I can make little dots, I can create straight lines. If I'm trying to fill in a section, I can fill in a section. It also creates these wavy lines that are like this. It can fill in a rectangle. If I'm trying to fill in a leaf, I can fill in a leaf pattern. So the angle brush is what I use the most of. All these other brushes are great and they are useful in other ways, which I'm about to show you. However, if you're leaving the house and you're gonna go paint outside and you're only gonna be able to carry one brush, take your angle brush because that's gonna be able to do most of what you want to do. Okay, next is when you're washing off your brushes, a lot of us tend to take these and just throw our brushes in the water like this and leave them there the whole class period, sometimes days. And when you bring them out, they are all bent, wonky like this, and they're stuck like that. Bristles are delicate. They're not supposed to be left upside down. You want to wash them out, and then you want to lay them on their sides like this to dry, so that, if you have them upright, that water is going to go down into the ferrule where the glue is at, and that is going to break up the glue inside the ferrule, and then the bristles are going to start to fall out. We want to leave it on its side. The other thing when you're washing is bristles are like hairs, and so you want to treat them like your hair, and that's why I use shampoo and conditioner to clean my bristles. Now, yes, you can use regular soap, and if you're just using water, if you get all the paint out, then that's fine. Water doesn't hurt your hair, and it doesn't hurt the hairs of the bristles either. They also make special brush soap. This is a brush soap. I like to keep this for rough conditions, like when someone's kind of left some paint in there for a while and it starts to dry up, or if your bristles are all splayed out and they're looking funky and you need to straighten it back up. What's great about a brush soap is if your brush has lost its shape, you can put the brush soap in and don't wash it out. You reshape it softly, very softly, back to its original shape, and then let it dry, and it's gonna get hard like a gel. And that hardness is gonna help reshape that brush, and then after a week or even a day, you can wash that soap out and it's going to revive the shape of your brush, okay? So when you're washing in here, if you are going to use soap, use some of that shampoo. Take you a pump of that shampoo, wash it out in your hand. If you want to finish it out with conditioner, do that, especially if your brush is getting rough. Finish it out with conditioner, that's fine. I like to keep 2 cups of water. 1 cup is dirty water, 1 cup is clean water. Wash it off in the dirty water, then wash it off in the clean water. And your brush is normally pretty clean for you to keep going. Now, let's talk about some of the other brushes. Like the filbert brush is great for pushing a lot of paint around. The round brush is great for painting small circles or things that are rounded off. The round brush is great at painting things that are round. So if you're going to paint a circle, maybe you want to use the round brush. What I find with most students is that when they're trying to paint something realistic, they always want to go to the tiniest brush possible. And I can't tell you how many professionals and professors have told me, use the biggest brush possible to get the job done. If it's too big to fit in the spot that you need it to fit in, then get a smaller brush. But if you're using a tiny brush, you're doing it wrong. And it took me many, many years to believe them, but they're all right. It's so true. Stop trying to use the tiniest brush you can. Use a bigger brush and use the tip of it. It can hold more paint. Or use a bigger brush to fill in a blocked section. You don't need a tiny brush. That's gonna speed up your painting speed, which is gonna help you out as a professional artist because every painting that you finish is money in your pocket, and the longer it takes you to make money, okay? So get that done. The next step, what I want to talk to you about is, well, before I leave brushes, flat brushes are great for blending, especially sections. If you're gonna do a sunset and you're doing the whole background, get you a big old fat one like this. Load it up, half of it yellow and half of it red, and then go across an entire piece of paper. Let me see if I have an example of this. Whatever, you get the idea. If you've got a big sunset, load up your brush with 2 different colors and whip it out there with a fat, flat brush. Okay, one of the things I want you to do is load your brush with 2 different colors. Load it with a red, and then load half of it with a blue, or just the tip of it, the blue, or a yellow and a green, or whatever colors you have on your palette. It doesn't matter. And then try pressing down and rotating and then lifting up. And create this look where it has these 2 different colors. So let me do that again. I'm going to load up my brush with red. I'm going to load up just the tip with blue. And once again, you can do any color you want. And I'm going to have this sharp variation of colors. Maybe I'm going to pull it down and then up. And you can tell the difference between pulling down and going up. Your bristles want to act differently. I'm going to practice making some thin strokes, some really, really long strokes that go across the paper that are straight and thin. Create some different strokes with some different brushes. Practice having 2 different colors on your brush and see how that goes. Maybe you're wanting to create a half circle or some kind of petal shape. Play around with it. This is for an exercise where you can make a messy paper of a lot of different strokes and it doesn't affect your overall painting. So give it some play. Then the next thing we're going to do, and don't feel like you're rushed. You can keep working on your strokes and playing with that. Main thing is that you're listening to what I'm saying. Is I'm going to take my flat brush and I am going to create some blending techniques. I'm going to mix some colors off to the side, and then I'm going to go from a tint to a shade. So if I want to take this red, I'm going to pull it off to the side. I'm going to pull out some of this white. And I'm simply going to mix some rough colors here that get lighter and lighter and lighter and lighter. Okay, to make a color lighter using a tint, it is normally okay to use white to make your color lighter. Where it gets dull is when you start using black to make your color darker. So with this red, I want to use blue. So I'm going to pull off some of this blue. I'm going to wipe off my palette knife. And I'm going to mix in some of that blue with that red. And it's going to create this dark color. And then for my very, very darkest color, I'm going to take just a dab of burnt umber, and I'm going to put that in to create a dark, dark color. Okay, if you will pause and watch this real quick because it's not going to take me long. I'm going to start off by loading my brush with nearly pure white. It is the lightest pink that I have created. And then I'm going to start over here on this side, and I'm simply going to pull very fast. I'm going to go further than I'm wanting to go. I'm going to pull this way. And while it's still wet, I got to work quick when it's acrylic. What's great about oils is this will stay wet for a while, and I don't have to rush. That's what's wonderful about oils. But acrylic, what's wonderful about acrylic is that you can layer it. But when it comes to blending, you gotta work quickly. So I've gone further than I need to, and then I'm gonna come over here and I'm gonna grab the slightly darker color, and I'm going to start further over here. I'm gonna pull it all the way in. I'm gonna get slightly darker by grabbing this darker color. I'm gonna start all the way up here and pull it down, mixing it in quickly. And the tape is going to wind up creating a straight line for me. So now I'm going to go to this darkest mixed color with the white, and I'm going to start right here. I'm going to pull this in. Then I'm going to very quickly wash my brush in that water. I'm going to rinse it out. I'm going to take pure red. I hope you're watching. And then I'm going to take pure red, and right in the middle, I'm going to take this red and I'm going to create that red, but then I'm going to pull it down here on top of this, mixing it back and forth. And I'm going quite quickly, and I'm trying to create this nice soft blend. Then from here, I'm gonna wash my brush one more time. I'm gonna take that pure red, I'm gonna go over it again right there in the middle, and then pull it over here further. And then I'm going to load my brush with the red and get a little bit of that blue so that it's slightly darker. And I'm going to work my way to the dark side, the shade. So if it's getting lighter with white, that's called tint. If it's getting darker with a darker color, that's called the shade of the color. And then I'm just gonna keep getting darker and darker. You get the idea? Okay, make sure that it's blended well, that you've gone over it several times. And make sure that it gets actually darker over here. I did not use black one time. Yes, black would be darker, but it's not gonna be as rich of a color as this. Okay, so there I am. It looks black, but it's not. It's really, really rich purple color. So there you go. Work on that. Whatever color you have, do that with, but try to make it look smooth. Create some of your strokes and create 3 or 4 different tints and shades along with some different strokes. This will help you out a lot when it comes to blending colors later and matching colors and figuring out what brush you want to use to be able to create all of these different colors. All right, have fun with this, play around, experiment, and hopefully this will help you out.